Okay, so now we're back to Bob and his trusty iPad. And he says, I want to view this web address. Convert that, please, into a web page for me so that I can view it. Okay, so that request is going to go through the internet. It's going to find the web server. The web server then is going to run what? Index.php in WordPress. And WordPress is going to load itself up. Okay. Then it's going to go through and it's going to load up each of the plugins and get those loaded into memory so that they're ready to rock and roll. Then it's going to load up the functions.php in the child theme or main theme. Okay, then it's going to go and it's going to figure out, what do I need to pull from the database, right? So I can say, I need this. I want this post ID, this record out of the database. So go get that, but it's taking it off of what's been requested. And it pulls it back. Now I have this all in memory. So I have all this data in memory. I'm setting up what WordPress calls the loop. Okay, it's going to put that into WP query. Now, let's kind of just walk through this. Let's don't get stuck on all these details just yet. This is all big picture stuff. At this point, everything's loaded, everything's ready to go. Now we can start sending stuff out to the browser. And this is the part people don't always understand. They think, well, you build the whole web page up back here in the server and then you send it out. Well, no, that's not true. Instead, what's going to happen is as it's being run over here on the web server, it's being sent out. Okay, so when you run things like you call a view file, that view file is automatically sent. If you do an echo, it's going to be sent. If you do a print F, that's going to be sent, and so on. A var dump. Okay, now hopefully you're only doing these for debug purposes, but that's going to be sent out also. Okay, so if you were to look at an HTML page, well, let's just go do that right now. I'm going to clean this off. Okay, so I'm here. Let's just open this up and take a look. So why don't you do this with me? You have Chrome, then all you have to do is go inspect, and let's just open this up together. Okay, and then I can open this, and I'm just going to scroll this up so we can see it a little bit better. This is the HTML markup. Okay. Now, if I were to turn off the CSS, all that you would see is just this markup. Notice that we have a head. Okay, in HTML, which we'll go through later, you can see that there are various pieces of meta. Okay, we've got a link in here. We've got some more meta and so on. Okay. Now, these are important to the browser, but also anything that wants to read HTML, such as search engines for their web crawlers. This is how we get our SEO, some of this stuff in here. Okay, then we come through and we say, all right, here's some Google fonts that I want. Here's my CSS. Well, there's a dash icon, okay, because I have this logged in right now. I've got an admin bar. I've got some other stuff. Then I come down, and here is my actual style sheet right there. And I've got it memified, which means it's all shrunk up. Got rid of all the comments, all the empty spaces. It's all nice and shrunk up. That's my style sheet, my main style sheet. Okay, so as all of this is being built back in the web server, it's sending it out to the browser. So incrementally, you're seeing this web page pull up. And you can see that sometimes with your eye, can't you? Right? So sometimes you'll see, oh, okay, I saw that load. And then if it's a big picture, you can see it takes a while to render it out, right? Okay. So then we start into the body, and this is all the content that you see here. The head is not, the body is. This is all that content that starts being built. So it comes down and it says, all right, here's my hello bar. When that gets built, that gets sent out. That's this area up here. I've got a site header. I've got a utility bar. All of this stuff is getting built up. And as it is, it's sent out to the browser. So the browser then is receiving this HTML. Now, the thing to realize is this. And I'm going to go back here so that we can talk about it a little bit more. Is that if you were to look at your code, you might be thinking back in the static days where we just put everything into one big file. Everything for that file is in one file. Well, we don't do that anymore. We like clean quality coding. So we break things up. They go into what you can call them partials, but essentially they become modular. Okay, so everything that has to do with navigation is going to be in the navigation file. Everything that has to do with the content, maybe post content or whatever, could be in that file. Everything to do with footer goes in there. If there's a sidebar, it goes in there, and so on. So you're breaking it up into modules. Each of these modules have HTML to them, so it's building it up. It's running what we call business logic. Okay. Business logic is doing this. Let me explain business logic to you. You have to go to the database. You have to make decisions on, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? I need another piece of data. I need this. I need to formulate something. I need to format something. I need to do some things with some data. That's all business logic. Okay. That's what goes into here. Then what you have is a view file that has all that HTML. Okay, I've made all the decisions of what I'm going to do. I've got everything ready to go. Now over here in the HTML was what I just showed you. It goes in and it says, okay, I've got the body, and then I'm going to do a div. Great. And then I have all that stuff. I have some p tags and everything else, and I'm building up the actual HTML. That's what goes in here. Decisions are over here in business logic. Okay, so if you hear me say business logic, that's what I'm meaning. Well, I need to go and get the title. I need to maybe pull in a piece of a custom field, which is actually a post meta. And I've got to decide how to do something. Maybe I need to run a calculation on the number of, views maybe, or comments. And I've got to add all that stuff up. I got to sum it up and get a total on it. Maybe I'll run some average on it or something. I've got to do some processing, if you will. That's what this business logic is versus the view. Okay. I know I got a little bit sidetracked there, but I wanted to make sure that you saw what's going on here. That as that web request comes in, this web request right there comes in through the internet, goes to the web server spins up index.php, spins up WordPress, blah, 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 blah. Then we start sending out what you see right here out to the browser. Okay. Now, if I turned off the CSS, well, let's do that. Let me show you. If I go and I open this up, and I'm going to come down, I'm going to turn off the CSS. Watch this. So we're going to scroll down to where that's at. Let's come on down here. We're going to be right here. Now, what I'm going to do is come here and say delete. See that right there? Say delete. Boom. Now, let's get rid of this. There you go. There's all of the content without the styling. Okay, styling's all gone now. This is just content. And if I go and I open this up, you can see it's just putting this out. Now the browser has some defaults. You can see that over here. It says, okay, well, if this is a list element, then I'll just put this little dot here. And you can see it has disk. That's how this browser, which is Chrome, is rendering it. Each one might be a little bit different, and it will be different. Okay, so we just removed all the styling. That's all we did. We'll do that frequently as we go through this series. I want you to see that this is what the browser understands. It understands this HTML markup. Okay. It's giving it contextual meaning, structure, if you will. This is the markup that says, okay, that's a clickable link. That's a list. This is a container for all of the list. That's a navigation. We've got a div, which will be a container. We've got a section. All of this means something. Okay, it means something to the browser. It means something to a screen reader. It means something to a web reader, such as a web crawler, which is what things like Google search engines use. So we can get good SEO. So all of this matters. Okay. So back over here in the server, it's holding all of these files. So if I come back over, let's talk about that. Remember I said we have this web server, and on this web server are all of these files. In these files are things like HTML, CSS, all the different scripts and the media. Okay, these are all sitting on the hard drive. Some of this will be intermingled into the code itself. So it would be a little bit of HTML here, a little bit there, and so on. Now, when Bob over here makes the request and it comes over here to the web server, WordPress in our code, because we're customizing the way WordPress works, starts building all this up. It sends out the HTML, sends that back to Bob's iPad here. So he's receiving little by little all that HTML I just showed you without the style. So he's receiving that. Then when he gets to a resource like the CSS and he says, this browser looks to see, does it already have it cached locally on this device's computer? If it does, because he's visited your site before or another site that has the exact same asset, the exact same resource, as jQuery or Google Fonts, something like that, it'll pull it out of cache. So it doesn't need to go and get it again. That makes it faster. Why? Because it's stored locally now. It doesn't have to go back through the internet over here to the web server and say, give me this, please. No, it's already got it cached. Okay. Otherwise, if it doesn't have it, it's going to go back and it's going to say, Mr. Web Server, please give me this CSS file. And that file that's sitting here on this hard drive then is copied, listen to me, copied from here to your browser or whoever's browser is looking at this. Now it will be locally cached, stored on that browser. Then it's going to come down, it's going to come down to the next thing, and the next thing, all the way down. Now we get down here to all the JS files. And I'll do the same thing. Mr. Web Server, please send me this particular script. And now it's got to make a round trip back and send it over here. So all of these individual files, CSS, JS, on the first time through, it's got to come over here and ask for them. And then they get downloaded to the device. Maybe you've heard about this. I just kind of wanted to show you how this works. Okay, I'm not going to go into the technical of how everything works and HTML protocol and all that stuff. I just want you to have an appreciation of web request through here, pull it off of the hard drive, send it back. Okay? Did you get that? Do you see it in your mind's eye? So when you think of, and I hear this a lot, when you think of a front-end developer, and they're dealing with HTML, they're dealing with some JavaScript, some CSS, SAS, whatever. All of this is actually stored over here. It's stored on the web server in the back end. Okay, some folks think it's stored out here. It's stored over here. Because this person hasn't visited your site yet. They got to come get it. Okay? So HTML is the markup. CSS makes it nice and pretty for us, gives us that branding and the presentation. The JS then would be something like Here's a button. I click that and I get some sort of behavior. Something slides down, something slides up. I click this and it scrolls to the top, scrolls to the bottom. I get some interactivity, some code that runs out here. That's what JS is doing. Or maybe I go back to the server and say, give me something else. That's Ajax. Really quick talking about those. Now, I went through a lot of stuff. This is what I want you to do. I want you to rewind, go back, watch it again. Make sure that you get a good broad picture here before you move on. And then when you're ready, hey, let's move on to the next thing.